Hi guys, welcome to lesson 1, which is all about perimeter. Now, because we've done perimeter since year 7 and even in primary school, we're really jumping in the deep end, okay? So pay really close attention to these examples because they do get tricky. All right, so example 1, find the perimeter of the following shaded triangle. So as you can see, we've got 3 measurements. However, we don't have all the measurements we need for the triangle. If I highlight, I'll highlight in blue because it'll stand out against the green. We've got this line here. We've got this line here, but we don't have the one I'll highlight in red, this here. To find that, we're going to use this 50 millimeters, this measurement we're given here. Okay, so now we can't just find that straight away. The first thing we're going to have to do is find this missing length here, this purple length down the bottom. Once we've found that, then we can find the red side. And then we can add all the sides up and find the perimeter. So it's at least a 3-step problem, at least. So step 1, to find that purple side, we're going to use Pythagoras theorem. So we're going to look at the big triangle, the triangle that goes down, across, and up, this big triangle. We're going to use c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Now our c is our longest side here. Because we've already been given the longest side, we rearrange the formula and we get a squared equals c squared minus b squared. Now remember, if we wanted to actually step out how to rearrange the formula, we haven't done this in a little while, we take away the b squared to be left with a squared. And that's how we get a squared equals c squared minus b squared. All right, so we have a squared. We'll call this a down the bottom. We don't know it. So that means c has to be 82.01 squared minus b squared, which is 50 squared. So a squared, well, actually, let's just go straight to a. A is the square root of all of that. 82.01 squared minus 50 squared. All right, so I'm going to have to grab a calculator and pop that in. Okay, so I've put that in the calculator and I get A is, well, it's approximately 65 because it's 65.004. So we'll round it to the nearest, even 2 decimal places would be 65.00. So A equals 65 millimeters. So down the bottom here, if this whole length along here is 65 millimeters, the purple length, we'll call it x. X we can calculate by doing 65 minus 35. Now 65 take away 35 equals 30 millimeters. So this along here is 30 millimeters, just the purple line. Okay, now that we have 30 and we have 50, we can calculate the red line. So we'll use Pythagoras again. So this time we're finding our hypotenuse. So we are using our c squared equals a squared plus b squared formula. And we have c squared equals 30 squared plus 50 squared. So c is a square root of 30 squared plus 50 squared. So I'll pop that in the calculator. Square root of 30 squared, there we go, plus 50 squared equals 58.309. 58.309, we'll round to 31. Okay, so the reason I chose 2 decimal places is because we've got 2 decimal places over here. We've got 2 decimal places in the question and doesn't tell you how many to put in your answer. Just follow what the question does. Okay, so we're not done yet. We figured out this side length is 58.31. However, we want to calculate, I'll add millimeters. We want to calculate the perimeter. So to find the perimeter, we just need to add all of the sides together that are in the triangle. Don't add the ones that aren't in the triangle. 82.01 plus 58.31 plus 35. And we get 175.32. And that is the perimeter of the triangle. So a lot of steps to get there, and we had to realize that we couldn't get there straight away. When you come across a question such as this, the first thing you should ask yourself is, what can I figure out? I can't find the perimeter. I can't find the missing side length, but what side length could I find? And even if it doesn't help you straight away, it might be a step towards finding the next thing. Because first we had to find this side length here, which didn't help us. Actually, first we found this side length here, which helped us find this side length, 30. And then that helped us find this side length, which found the perimeter. So it's a long process to get there. Find what you can and then use that to find the answer. All right, question 2 or example 2. And I've been given a formula here. This is our arc length formula. The length of an arc, L, equals theta over 360 times 2 pi r. Now that there only finds, oopsies, the arc length, which is this bit here. If we want to find the perimeter, we have to also add on. So to find the perimeter, do the same thing, theta over 360 plus 2 pi, times 2 pi r plus a radius, because we've got to add these two radius on to find the full perimeter, don't we? Okay, so find the perimeter, so find the arc length and then find the perimeter of the sector. So if it's a question like that, we can't do it all at once. It says find it and then find the perimeter. It's giving you explicit instructions. So we are going to first find the arc length. To find the arc length, we've got theta. I'm going to write the formula out first. So we'll go L for arc length, theta over 360 times 2 pi r. It's a good habit to just write the formula first, because the more you write it, the more it sticks in your head. But also, if you're doing an exam and you show this is the formula I want to use, and if you use it wrong, they'll at least go, oh, you know the formula, you know what you want to use. If you picked the right formula, you've just made a mistake. So you're showing the exam marker that you know what you're talking about. So theta is our angle here. This is our theta, 51 over 360 times 2 times pi times our radius, which is 54. So in the calculator, we get the arc length equals 48.066, so we'll write 07. Okay, now we've found the arc length. The next thing I want us to do, then find the perimeter. So to find the perimeter, we just need to add all the sides together. The perimeter equals 48.07 plus 54 plus 54. And that is 156.07 millimeters. Always remember your units. You don't have to put them out the whole way through, but at the end of your question, you need units to show that you have calculated a length of 56.07 millimeters. All right, not too tricky. Let's try the next one. Given that the perimeter is 80 millimeters, find the radius of the sector. So this one, we've been given the perimeter. Oh, here we go. The perimeter is 80 millimeters. Now, sometimes if you're on your phone, that'll cross it out. So I'll just draw a box around it. The perimeter is 80 millimeters. We want to find the radius. So we're going to start with our formula. So our formula for perimeter would be theta over 360 times 2 pi r plus a radius plus a radius. Actually, we'll just write plus 2r, 2 lots of the radius. Okay, so let's sub in what we know. We know the perimeter is 80 millimeters. So we're going to write 80 equals, theta we know is 67 from our diagram, 67 over 360 times 2 pi r plus 2 lots of the radius. Okay, so now we're going to use algebra to solve this, but it's a little bit tricky because we've got 2 different r's in 2 different terms. So first thing we're going to do is combine the terms or have only one r. Step 1, what we're going to do is this term here, we're going to simplify it by actually multiplying 67 over 360 by 2. And that will get rid of the fraction times the 2. It'll just have one number. So if you want any calculators, put 67 over 360 times 2, and we get 67 over 180. So 80 equals 67 over 180 times pi r plus 2r. Now, when you times, if we're still looking at this first bit here, when you times a whole number, because this here, when you times it together, it would just be a number. When you times a number by a fraction, you only multiply the numerator by that number. So we're going to have 80 equals 67 pi r over 180 plus 2r. Okay, so as we can see here, we still have 2 different r's in 2 different terms. So to get only one r, let's factorize. So 80 equals, we'll pull out a common factor of r. R bracket 67 over 180, oh 67 pi, sorry, over 180 plus 2. Now we've just got one r term. And it's just r times everything in the bracket, isn't it? R times all of that. To cancel out all of that, because we just want r by itself, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So if we do 80 divided by, all of this will cancel out. So 67 pi over 180 plus 2, we will get r. So careful in your calculator. 67 pi over 180 plus 2. And you should get, I'll have to draw it back up here, that r equals 25.241. So we're at 25.24. Now, because that was a very complicated question, what I would always recommend doing is subbing in your value to see if that is the correct answer. So we have our normal formula is perimeter equals, now I'm just going to sub in the value straight away, 67 over 360 times 2 times pi times our radius, which we found up here, 25.24, plus 2 lots of our radius, so 2 times 25.24. Now if we put that all in the calculator, we should hopefully get 80. Okay, so when I put that all in the calculator, I get 79.9949. So if we were to round that to the nearest whole number, we would get 80. So, woo, we did it. Now, the one thing I have forgotten up here is my units. The perimeter was in millimeters, so the radius has to be in millimeters.